Staying calm isn't the thing you think it is. Watch this. Two people get the exact same insult thrown at them in the exact same room. One goes home replaying it for 3 days. The other forgets it by the time they've reached their car. Same words, same tone, same audience watching to see what happens next. So why one person spiral and the other just barely notices? That second person isn't colder than you, they're not thicker-skinned, and they're not pretending not to care. What they have is a way of staying calm that has nothing to do with willpower, and once you see how it works, you'll understand why almost nothing can trigger them anymore. Not the comment, not the tone, not even the silence afterward waiting for them to react. That's what we're breaking down today. How to actually stay calm no matter who's trying to get a reaction out of you. And by the end, I'll give you the exact technique therapists use for this, with the actual lines to say. They just figured out something about how provocation works that nobody bothers explaining to you growing up. Here's the part that changes everything once you see it. The goal of most provocation was never to make a point. It was to get a reaction out of you. That's the whole product. Not being right, not winning the exchange, and just watching your face change. And once you know that's the actual target, everything about how you respond starts to look different. Think about the last time someone got under your skin. A comment about your job, your weight, your choices. Something dressed up as a joke but landing like a punch. Your chest tightened. Your mind started drafting a comeback before they'd even finished the sentence. That reaction, the flush, the tight jaw, the need to correct them right there in front of everyone, that's not a flaw in you. That's the exact thing they were fishing for. And the second it shows up on your face, you've handed it over. People who provoke on purpose aren't usually trying to inform you of anything. They're running a test, half-consciously most of the time, to see if you'll flinch. If you flinch, they've got what they came for. If you explain yourself, they've got something even better because now you're the one working, building the case, listing your accomplishments, defending your character, while they just sit back and watch. Nobody ever won an argument by looking like they needed to prove something. Here's where it gets interesting. If reacting is the trap, why do we keep walking into it? Because most of us were raised to believe silence means you agree, and an unanswered insult is a loss. So we jump in, we correct the record, we explain the context they conveniently left out. It feels like standing up for yourself, but watch what's actually happening underneath. The more you explain, the more material you're giving someone who was never listening for the truth in the first place. Every clarification is another door you've opened for them to walk through. And the people who are best at this, usually the ones closest to you. A sibling who knows exactly which old wound to press. A coworker who's learned your one insecurity and brings it up right before a meeting where it'll land hardest. An ex who sends one specific text because they know you'll read it 14 times. They're not smarter than you. They've just done the research. They know which button gets the fastest response, and they push it precisely because it works. If any of this sounds familiar, stay with me, because the actual technique is next, the one that makes the difference between the person who spirals and the person who doesn't, and it has a name. Therapists call it the gray rock method. The idea is simple. You become as unremarkable and unreactive as a rock on the side of the road. Nothing to grab onto and nothing worth a second look. Not cold, not hostile, just genuinely uninteresting to provoke. No performance of anger, no performance of hurt, no long defense. You give almost nothing, and nothing is exactly what a person fishing for a reaction can't do anything with. Here's what it actually sounds like. Someone says, "Why are you always so sensitive?" You say, "Maybe." They push again. "You're not even going to explain yourself?" You say, "Not really." They try one more angle. "Wow, you're just going to sit there?" You say, "Guess so." Notice what's missing from every single one of those answers. No justification, no evidence, no emotion for them to hold on to. Each line is short enough that there's nothing left to argue with. Try this one too. Someone says, "Must be nice not having real responsibilities." The instinct is to list every single thing on your plate right there at the table. Don't. Just say, "Yeah, must be," and keep eating. Watch what happens to the sentence. It just sits there in the air, looking exactly as small as it actually was, because you never picked it up and gave it weight. If you've ever caught yourself explaining your way into a fight you didn't start, drop a comment, because this next part is where it actually clicks. This isn't about walls. It isn't about going cold or pretending nothing bothers you. Gray rocking isn't suppression, it's redirection. You can feel everything, the anger, the sting, the urge to defend yourself, and still choose not to hand any of it over. This is about being selective with your energy, saving your real reactions, your real explanations, your real vulnerability for people who've actually earned access to it. The person needling you at a party hasn't earned that. Your close friend who's genuinely confused about something you did, different story. That person gets your full explanation because they're not fishing, they're actually trying to understand you. And here's the part that surprises people most. When you stop supplying the reaction, the provocation usually gets worse before it gets better. The person escalates, they push harder, louder, meaner, because the old method stopped working and they haven't learned a new one yet. This is the moment most people cave, right when it feels hardest, because the silence feels like it isn't working. It is working. You're just standing in the part where the old dynamic is dying and hasn't been replaced with anything yet. Hold there, give it a little longer than feels comfortable. Eventually, something quieter happens. They stop trying, not because you won, not because you humiliated them, but because there's genuinely nothing left to feed on. A person who thrives on getting a rise out of you will always go where the rise is easiest to get. When you're no longer easy, they find somewhere else to go looking. That's not you losing their attention, that's you getting your whole week back. What you're left with afterward isn't numbness, it's something closer to room to actually decide what deserves a piece of you and what doesn't. The coworker's comment stops being a crisis and becomes just a sound in the background. The family dig stops ruining your Sunday and becomes something you notice and set down in the same breath. That's not because you got harder, it's because you finally understood the transaction for what it was and you stopped making the deposit. The people who seem unshakable were never actually unbothered. They just decided a long time ago that their calm wasn't up for negotiation, and they built the gray rock method into a habit instead of a one-time trick. Nobody gets to withdraw from an account you never opened for them. I'm Sam, and if this video helped you, subscribe for more videos that will help you become better every day.